Career Fair, what to do after the event. This is Jason Cirillo with the JSON Career Management Center and going to give you some ideas on what steps to take when you've gone to the career fair, you've had your conversations. Hopefully, you've come out confident and feeling good. So now we talk about what happens next, what goes on in the steps following that. Now, first of all, you want to think about any sort of steps or specific instructions that they gave you that you needed to take afterwards. Some companies during your conversations will tell you to go to a specific website, or they'll tell you to email their resume directly to them. They'll give you directions, specific directions that you need to follow. So take those directions and follow them as soon as you can. There seems to be a worry that sometimes if we follow up too quickly or we kind of jump on it, that we seem desperate. This is not the dating world. This is specifically a job search. And if you were asked to do something, the sooner you get it done, the easier it's going to be on that recruiter to hopefully start moving you forward in the process. So follow any directions that they've given you as soon as you can. Now, within a day, you can send an email to them if you receive their email, if you were able to ask for that during your conversations. And you can say something very simply: thank you for the opportunity to meet with you at the UTD Career Fair. I was excited to learn about whatever and how I can use my expertise as whatever to be successful in your internship program. I've applied to this job and this job ID. Here's the title of it, and looking forward to the next steps in the process. So that response, or I should say that email, can come from a few different perspectives. The recruiter may have asked that person to specifically apply for that job. So now they're saying, hey, you asked me to do it, so now I've done it. The other thing to remember is that when you make a first impression, if you can make a very, very strong first impression, your follow-up later on is going to be very, very easy. So when you say something like, I was excited to learn about this, um, you are calling back to something in that conversation that you had with that person. Perhaps you can call back to something unique, some sort of specific part of that conversation that seemed to stand out the most. And you can call that out right there, saying, oh, yeah, I remember you spoke about this. I was excited to learn about that. And you can also work in a little bit about yourself to help them hopefully remember who you are. So if in your elevator pitch, if you had a strong elevator pitch and you had a strong conversation skills, and you were somehow able through that conversation to really shine light on a specific part of your experience or yourself or whatever you're bringing to the table, you could call on that later on, and that can help you sort of um, help them remind them of you, right? So it'll help you get remembered easier. And that's why it's so important to make a really strong first impression. And that is sort of a message that kind of explains and kind of uses those two elements, and hopefully they'll move you forward in the process from there. You can also connect on LinkedIn. You don't have a lot of space to connect on LinkedIn when you send a message. So this message is a little shorter. Great meeting you at the UT Dallas Career Fair. I was excited to learn about so and so, and I'd like to connect to learn more about your internship program. You're giving them a specific reason why you're connecting with them, right? Because you met them at the UTD Career Fair. Now, this is also why it's very important to not wait too long to start connecting with people, because sometimes recruiters will go to multiple career fairs in a week and they start getting all these messages, right? And your message can be lost in there very easily. So that's why it's very, very important to follow up as soon as possible. Another thing you can do is check out jindalconnect.com and LinkedIn to connect with alumni that work at the companies you've spoken with. Now, if you've met with, as an example, Toyota, and you go on Jindal Connect, or you go to LinkedIn and you find some alumni that work there, you might want to send them a message and let them know, hey, I just met your company at our career fair, was really excited to meet with them. And I've noticed that we have some alumni there. I wanted to reach out and see if you have some time in the next few weeks to connect. What you're trying to do there is set up an informational interview. And an informational interview is another strategy that's very common and very popular with JSOM students. And that is essentially setting up short conversations to do some career research with alumni or people that are out there that are doing the jobs that you want to do at some point. And it's a great way to not only learn and do career research, but also to make a great first impression and possibly set yourself up for a referral later on down the line. So there's a lot of great information, by the way, on LinkedIn Learning. You have access to that as a JSOM student, as a UT Dallas student. You go through the McDermott Library website, find the link there, go onto LinkedIn Learning, and you'll be able to search out videos for informational interviewing, and it'll give you ideas on how to set those up. So if you've been sending out these messages and you get no response, wait a week, send another message. But that should be about it. You don't want to spam them. You don't want to start messaging a bunch of people. That's also why I mentioned connecting with a few alumni, not all the alumni. You don't want to send out, 50 different messages because then you start to become a nuisance and it just makes you look bad. And it can also make UTD look bad as well. Also, you want to review Handshake events. So go into Handshake and look to see if the companies you spoke to, look to see if they're doing any other follow-up information sessions. Sometimes companies will go to a career fair, and sometimes after that, they'll schedule follow-up sessions with students they've talked to or other students that maybe they didn't get to meet with. Sometimes it's the reverse. Sometimes they actually do info sessions first, and then they show up at the career fair. Either way, they're great ways. If you really want to work for the company, the more you can get in front of them, more FaceTime you can do, the better. So if they have an event coming up, even if you already talked to them, make the effort to go to the event if you can. Another good thing to do, check out social media. A lot of these company professionals like to post pictures of themselves at these career fairs. This is a very unique way to follow up, especially if it's someone that maybe you didn't get a chance to talk to, that maybe you wanted to talk to, maybe they had a huge line. This one might be an example where you can send a message out and basically try to send a follow-up message that way, kind of one of the ideas that we were talking about before. This is just it's a different way of sending. Instead of sending a LinkedIn message, maybe you send a comment first, right? Maybe you comment on a picture like this and then send a LinkedIn message. Just another way to look at it. You'll often find that company professionals use that hashtag UT So while the career fair is going on and after the career fair, use that hashtag UT Dallas and see what people are talking about. By the way, if you ever go to a big conference, this is actually a really good strategy to use to kind of see what is happening in the space of that social media at that specific event. And for smaller events like ours, like the UT Dallas Career Fair, more focused ones like this, you can still use that hashtag and you're still going to find people talking about it. So don't be afraid to post your own social media. It's really great to be able to put yourself out there on LinkedIn. And also, that's another kind of unique way to draw professionals into your profile. Finally, you want to think about some of the conversations that you had. Now, this is going to be a very important thing for you to do after any single interaction you have with an employer. Think about the conversations that you had. Now, I like to compare this a lot to, for instance, some of these professional sports teams. After they play a game, they're always watching the footage of that game and they're reviewing it and they're seeing where they made mistakes and where they did well and where they can improve. This is how these sports teams continue to get better because they learn from their previous experiences. So when you reflect on some of these conversations, after the career fair, start taking notes, right? Write down questions that they asked you. How did you answer those? Did you ask the right questions? What would you have done differently? Do you feel like you talk too much? Do you feel like you need to work on your communication skills a little bit more? Was there a new company that you discovered? Was there a company that you really wanted to work for, but then now you're like, man, I talked to them and now I really want to work for them because now I just realize how awesome they are. Take note of all this stuff. Think about any kind of information that you might have learned that can help you get your resume out there in front of the right people. Um, think about how your conversations ended. This is a big challenge for many students. How did I end my conversations? Was it in a positive note? Was it strange? Do I feel weird? How did the conversation end, and how can you improve that? Now, always, okay, always be thinking about job interviews. Now that you've gone through the entire process of going through career fairs, you have no doubt, and you will no doubt start getting some interview calls. So you can't forget to practice interviewing, right? We spend a lot of time building up our LinkedIn profile and our resumes and our networking and our elevator pitch. And we start thinking about all these things. And then we forget that, oh, we actually have to practice interviewing. You have some great tools here at UTD as a JSOM student. You have access to Quincia that can actually help you out with your resume as well. But you also have access to Interview Stream. If you're just a UT Dallas student, you can use that tool. JSOM students can use Quincia for the resume and do a mock video interview. This will help you so much because again, the more you start putting yourself out there at these career fairs and applications and having conversations with recruiters and all that stuff, the more interview calls that you're going to get. Now, it is a process and you have to be patient with it. It doesn't happen the same way for everybody. But I promise you, if you put in the effort, you put in the work, great things will continue to happen.